Well, a fiery week of confirmation hearings for some of President Trump's most controversial cabinet picks.
Is Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States of America?
As someone who has worn our
uniform
in combat, I understand how critical our national security
Apparently
is.
you don't.
You're asking me not to sue vaccine pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
He is asking to be head of the FBI, and he said that their headquarters should be shut down.
If the best attacks on me are going to be false accusations and grotesque mischaracterizations, the only thing this body is doing is defeating the credibility of the men and women at the FBI.
RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard facing potential GOP opposition. Here's Vice President Vance's message to Senate Republicans.
The president has made his selections, and the advice and consent power of the United States Senate should not be used to block people because you have one policy disagreement on one issue. You don't get to make these decisions. President Trump gets to make these decisions, and he already has.
All right, let's bring in Stephen Miller, White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and Homeland Security Advisor. Stephen, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks. I want to start with Tulsi. Some Republican senators pressed Tulsi Gabbard in her hearing this week to declare Edward Snowden a traitor. One of those members, James Langford, said that it wasn't a trick question and he was surprised by her answer. Should she have just said yes? Would the White House have approved of that answer?
It's very simple. The policy that Tulsi is going to implement as the head of national intelligence is the president's policy. It is the policy that Republican senators support. It is the policy the American people support. It is the policy of fiercely protecting our nation's classified intelligence while ensuring maximum transparency, and the policy of fully enforcing all federal laws, including the federal laws that govern the illicit disclosure of classified information. Look, President Trump was the victim for 8 years of the intelligence community weaponizing classified leaks, fabricating classified intelligence to go after President Trump. So what Tulsi's mission is to restore trust, faith, and integrity in the U.S. intelligence system. And so when Republican senators vote to confirm Tulsi, they're voting to ratify the reform agenda that Donald Trump campaigned on and that Donald Trump built a historic winning coalition on.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune didn't sound very confident necessarily about her confirmation. Is the White House considering any backup options right now?
She is going to get confirmed. This is a very important point. President Trump built the broadest, most diverse winning coalition in the history of the Republican Party. He brought together old school liberals. He brought together conservative Democrats. He brought together new right Republicans, traditional Republicans. He stitched together a coalition of the young, of minority voters, and of blue-collar workers all across this country. His cabinet reflects that coalition. Americans did not vote for Mitt Romney or a Mitt Romney cabinet. They voted for President Trump and a President Trump cabinet. And Republican senators who won their majority because of President Trump, they have their gavels because of President Trump, they have a majority leader because of President Trump, should, and I believe will, ratify his cabinet so that we can continue to grow and expand the Republican Party as a permanent majority governing coalition.
Okay. I want to switch gears and ask you about some other candidates. Some Democrats are sounding the alarm on Russ Vought, especially after the OMB memo this week. The Atlantic said that the White House may not have seen that memo before it went out. Had you seen that memo prior to its release? Did you approve of that?
No, I hadn't seen the memo, but I think the more important point here is that the memo was hoaxed. The memo was a guidance memo. The memo did not do anything. The memo provided interpretive guidance on how to apply the president's executive orders. The memo did not change any federal policy. A hoax was created by the media about that memo. The memo being in effect or not being in effect has zero impact on public policy because it was just an interpretive guidance memo. And the media spun this entire thing completely out of proportion. It was, like I said, it was a straightforward, routine media hoax. Like, it's not normal for the White House to review guidance documents, and the White House out of the OMB because guidance documents don't have the force of law, because guidance documents don't set or change federal policy.
Right.
They're just interpretive guidance for agencies. And
So
so the real culprit here is the media for lying about the memo that, again, did not change or set any federal policy.
Can you clear up whether, in fact, this freeze is still in effect? Because I obviously saw the press secretary say memo rescinded, but the orders are still in place. The freeze is still in effect. That's evidently not how DOJ is seeing it. They believe that the brakes have been pumped on this whole thing because of the administrative stay in D.C. and now potentially a temporary restraining order coming out of Rhode Island and the other case with the 22 state attorneys general. So is money for these programs impacted by the president's EOs currently going out the door while the court case plays out?
The president issued executive orders pausing funding for diversity, equity, and inclusion, critical race theory, radical transgender ideology, sex
I understand
changes.
it. I'm just
No,
because the judge said that there was going to have to be stopped.
Either
go ahead.
Either I can answer the question or I can't.
I'm trying to get clarity though, because the judge said Friday.
I'm going to answer your question exactly.
Okay.
The president paused funding for diversity, equity, and inclusion, radical gender ideology, critical race theory, sex changes for minors, foreign aid, as well as certain Green New Deal projects. Also, the resettlement of illegal aliens and the funding to NGOs that resettle illegal aliens. Those are all discretionary, agency-directed spending projects that are not required by law, that are not required by Congress. In addition, every federal agency in its own right has not only the authority, but the mandate and the requirement from Congress to review grants, to review contracts, to review new conditions for federal spending, and to ensure there is no waste, to ensure there is no abuse, to ensure that the bureaucracy is not acting unaccountably. This entire case that we're talking about is a hoax piled on top of a hoax, piled on top of a hoax. The case is debating nothing, it concerns nothing, it makes no sense, and people have been spending way too much time talking about it. Federal agencies have an affirmative mandate from Congress to review new spending that goes out the door. In other words, contracts are issued, they are drawn up. An entity asks for federal dollars. They say, I want money to build X, I want money to do Y, I want money to teach Z.
Right,
then that agency has to review that, and they have to decide whether that is a meritorious use of taxpayer dollars. For the government not to perform that function would mean that all money was issued automatically without any conditions whatsoever. I'm not aware of any citizen who thinks that would be a just or virtuous outcome.
I fully understand your position, Stephen. I was asking just a different question of while this administrative stay is in place because a D.C. judge put it there, is any money going out the door while we approach that deadline, which I think is Monday?
Again,
so
the money is going out the door for all of the things that are required by law, for all of the things that affect benefits to individual Americans. Money is not going out the door for critical race theory. Money is not going out the door to trans our children. Money is not going out the door to help organizations traffic children and resettle illegal aliens. And every department and every agency is using its discretion under law to ensure that contracts comply with the will and desires of taxpayers. To not do that would mean that individual bureaucrats would be able to funnel billions of dollars out the door to their friends and to their allies with zero accountability.
We got a commercial break coming up.
That did nothing was enjoined, so therefore nothing changed because the memo didn't do anything in the first place.
I really don't want to cut off this interview and go to a hard break, but Stephen, thank you very much for explaining all that. Appreciate your time.
The most important thing is that we're not funding the programs that open our borders, that hurt our children, that undermine public safety. President Trump is defending the American people, the American taxpayer, and he is restoring American democracy, and that is why he has overwhelming public support and approval.
You got it. Stephen Miller, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Loud and clear. Appreciate it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.